Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Highruler and today's video is talking about the reviews from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the game. Now, what we're going to be doing in this video today is we're going to be highlighting both some of the key positives as well as the key negatives and talk about what that could mean for the future of the game ahead of the launch on August 18th. Now, frankly, I always want to put my best foot forward, so we're going to do that with these reviews as well. We're going to talk about the biggest positives from these reviews. Now, from what I've seen, and you guys are free to comment if you've seen different, but a lot of the reviews that I've seen have really talked about the minute-to-minute gameplay and how enjoyable that is, right? So that means, for anyone who doesn't know, is that the gameplay loop or the gameplay element of whether you're a family member or victim has been very satisfying to play. And honestly, I think this is the best thing that you could read as a fan of the game. Now, the reason for that is that if you've played the tech test before, yeah, you've probably looked at it, played it, and been like, yeah, this is a great game. This is really fun. And frankly, you'd probably be right? But the point of these reviews and going deeper than just the review score is that we want to highlight some of the best things about this game, because there's going to be people who are going to look at this and be like, do I play it? Do I not? Do I buy it? Do I not? And frankly, there's going to be a lot of skepticism. And that skepticism is very warranted, because think about how many multiplayer games come out each year, and then think about how many of them are actually successful. There's not too many of them, right? And the reason for that is that the gameplay loop, the gameplay element just isn't very satisfying to play. There can just be not something that clicks for you. There'd be something that just isn't fun. And because of that, people are very skeptical nowadays about multiplayer games, especially games that don't have a single player or a single player element, right? Because if that player base dies, regardless if it's a week, a month, 3 months, 6 months, your money's pretty much gone, right? Like, these games live and die off the community, and the community lives and dies off the gameplay loop. So for me, when I'm looking at these reviews and I'm going, okay, seems like everyone has a very positive experience with the game, that to me just reinforces my belief that this game does have some legs past the initial launch period. Okay, so let's talk about some of the biggest negatives that have come from these reviews. Now, the two that I really want to hone in on are going to be the lack of maps and then the technical issues that reviewers have run into. Now, the map one is super interesting because, for anyone who doesn't know, the game is launching with 3 maps with 2 variations of each to make it for a total of 6 maps, right? Now, of course, when I say total of 6 maps, some people are going to say I'm splitting hairs, and sure, I'll give them that. But that's just the reality of the situation, right? So, 3 maps, what does that mean for the players coming into the game? Well, I would probably agree with some people that that isn't a lot of variation. And of course, you know, when you look at the way the game plays out, you can have different family members, different victims, and you have different builds, which will spice up that gameplay a little bit so that not every game on the same map will be precisely the same. But I would probably agree with people that say that 3 maps isn't really a lot. Now, hopefully, my counter to this point is that hopefully the game does well enough that they'll add maps in the future. I think a lot of people, no matter what your background is, if you've played multiplayer games before, I think every game goes through this period where people want new maps, right? I'm a Destiny guy, and if you've been paying attention to that, you'll know that people want new maps, and you know the controversy that's been stirred over there. So for me, I would probably agree, but hopefully, you know, by the time the game gets its feet off the ground and things are kind of going, and we start to see this game really kind of form a long community that is going to be behind it, we'll start to see Gun kind of roll out plans for the future of this game, which would include more maps. But right off the rip, I would probably agree that 3 maps isn't enough, but hopefully they kind of rectify that with future plans to add more maps to the game. So I understand, but hopefully in the future that is fixed. So let's talk about the other big thing, which has been the technical hiccups during the game itself. I've seen some mentions of when a family member goes to finish off a victim, that will tank the frame rate for everybody across the board. And it seems like that is not the most uncommon thing when I've read it out of a few reviews. So my biggest worry going into launch now is that this is going to be a hindering of the gameplay, right? I would hate that someone just going to die across the map and my frame rate is going to tank because of that, right? So what's interesting here is that for a lot of you guys who have played the technical test, you guys have noted that it was pretty buttery smooth, right? I haven't really seen too many people talk about the technical tests and had very many issues, but it seems like there have been reviewers who have been experiencing these frame rate drops in the action part of the game. So I guess the biggest hope there is that as we come up on launch, we do get a day 1 patch. And I think day 1 patches have to be a thing looking at this game. So let's recap for everybody at the end of this video. Biggest positive takeaway from the reviews: the minute-to-minute gameplay is great. People are really loving it. That bodes well for the future of the game, and hopefully the community will start to form around a great game at its core center. Now, the two biggest takeaways that are on the negative side is the fact that there are only going to be 3 maps and 2 variations for each map, a day and a night, which means there's a total of 6 maps. Now, obviously, as the takeaway here, I would hope that this is fixed down the road when they see that the game does well. Hopefully the game does well and they can add new maps in the future, and that there have been some technical hiccups with these review copies. It seems like there are people who are not having the greatest of experiences with frame rates tanking across the board, and it seems like if that is to be the case, Gun hopefully releases a day 1 patch so we can avoid these across the whole spectrum of the community and people can just enjoy the game on Friday. Now, with that being said, if you guys want more Texas Chainsaw Massacre the game news, make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a nice little comment, why don't you, and leave a like on the video, and I'll see you guys the next time here on the channel. Enjoy the rest of your day and the night. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys next time here. Peace.